Norge, welcome to Locked In.
How are you, Ian?
I'm good. You're a local. You're in Shelton.
Yes, sir.
And you own a bar. Definitely plug that in.
Yes, Center Bar and Lounge. It's in Shelton, Connecticut. Love you guys, Center Street. We've been there for about 10 years. So I've owned for about 2.
How far is that from here?
40, well, with traffic, 40 minutes. So about 20 minutes.
Is that going towards like the Westchester Airport? White Plains Airport?
Yes, technically.
All right,
We're right off Route 8 coming up 95. So.
We have a lot of guests that fly in there, so I can recommend them to your bar for a
Please
place.
do. Thank you, man.
I got you.
And Center, we're trying to get Ian to the bar. So
I'll be there. And you guys have food there and stuff?
Absolutely. Very good food, too. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I was telling you we'll drag JD out there when he comes next
Appreciate that, man. Thank you. Big fan of his, too.
Now, you didn't grow up in Connecticut.
Bronx, New York.
Bronx, New York.
Morris Park section, yeah.
Who'd you grow up with?
Small core of friends, but the Morris Park area of the Bronx is mostly primarily Italian, Albanian. Together, obviously there's no hard feelings there because I have some Albanian friends, but I break their balls. But so it's a close-knit Italian. Depending on which way you're looking at it, obviously where I'm on the show, you have circles of areas where you hang out with those specific guys and intermingle. And I wouldn't call them gangs. It's more like our friends are separated by neighborhoods as opposed to gangs. And I was from the Morris Park section.
And mom and dad together?
Divorced when I was 2. My mom, who passed away last April, raised me. My father obviously was a present father, but I would see him on the weekends. He very financially successful, great guy. I have 3 half brothers he remarried, and 1 half sister with my mom. I hate to use the word half, but that's what it is.
And no direct like brothers or sisters? Oh, interesting. So you're only child.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
How do you think the divorce affected your childhood?
It's, without a dad there, you kind of, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but you kind of got to raise yourself in certain aspects. Your moms can only do so much. When dad's not there, you kind of tend to move toward friends' dads, older friends. You learn things from them. Streetwise, especially.
How would you say people would describe you if we had like your best friend from childhood here?
Sick fuck. And I don't mean that in a violent way. I have a very unique sense of humor is the best way I could put it. They know they can rely on me for anything, from A to B or A to Z, I'm sorry. I'm very loyal.
Did you guys have money growing up?
No, very poor. My father, wasn't super rich at that point. He does well now. But my mom, we were eating mayonnaise sandwiches when I was like 6 years old. It was pretty rough. But I was in the Arthur Avenue section of the Bronx at that time. We eventually migrated to the Morris Park section.
Was Arthur Avenue how it is today back then?
No, much nicer.
Oh, it was nicer back then?
Yes.
I think compared to what it is now?
The crime rate was much lower. Is the best way I could put it. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. It was like you see in Bronx Tale, similar to that style, which Bronx Tale, a lot of people don't know, wasn't filmed there. It was filmed in Queens. They weren't allowed to film the Bronx.
How come?
They didn't get the proper permission. Mm-hmm. And I don't mean from directors. Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
And yeah, you completed high school?
I did. I did about 2 years of college. Wasn't for me. I just, I wanted faster money, I guess is the best way to put it. And I decided to take a left where I should have took a right.
What were you going to college for?
Business management.
Were you passionate about that?
Yes. And I applied those skills, believe it or not, into that life. And it worked out very well for me.
Now, did you do any sort of like drug selling in high school or any type of crime?
No. I was a pretty good kid. I was an athlete. I played baseball straight up. I had a few college scholarships offers, which I didn't take. I made the mistake of thinking I was better than I was and tried out for a Division I team, and no good. Yeah. Didn't work out. They all had full-grown beards, and I had 1 pubic hair, I think. So it didn't work out for me that way.
Was that discouraging to you?
Very, yes, because that's part of the reason I stopped going. That was my whole drive. To be honest with you, I thought I wanted to go to college. I wanted to be a base. I really thought I could do it, and it didn't work out. Mm. Yeah.
Now, if you had someone to like keep you on track, do you think that would have helped? Like a mentor or someone?
Possibly. My mom, like I said, was there, but she had to work so many hours, and I was out on my own a lot, and no fault of her own. But if your mom's working from 9 to 5, I was walking home from school by myself in 2nd grade. It's just the way it was, and it was accepted.
Mm. So you leave college 2 years in.
Yep.
Do you ever go back at all later on, or no?
Online classes here and there. I tried, and then I found ways to make money that I didn't need college anymore.
So who first exposed you to something other than a normal life?
My uncle. Well, Italians have this, if you know someone a long time growing up, you call them your cousin. If you have an older guy growing up, you call him your uncle. It's just not blood, But he knew I was having it rough financially and gave me an opportunity to do a few things, just collecting money here and there for him. And it's a funny story is I was about 19 years old, and I would have to drive around with this guy named Vinny, picking up money at certain spots. And they always told me, you do not get out of the fucking car unless Vinny tells you to. And this is back when remember the club that would lock your steering wheel? So we stopped at a spot in Queens, and I see him arguing with this Jamaican dude. Now, it looked like it was going to get physical, so I jumped out with the club. I got fired. You know how hard it is to get fired from that job? But they're very strict, their rules, and I was fired. That was it.
Even though you were trying to help them?
Correct. Wow. There's strict rules. If you don't listen, you're showing right there the inability to listen to directions. And if you're doing it that early, that's it.
How much were you making doing those runs?
About $1,000 a week, but at 19 years old, it's a lot of money.
That is a lot of money. That's better than any college job.
Correct, yes.
And what year is this? What time frame?
97-ish, right around there, 98.
So you get fired from that, then what do you do?
Well, now I've made connections. Now I have friends in higher places where I'm able to, and like I said, this is not to work with them, but I became friendly with them. So I got into any way I can make money, whether it be drugs or gambling or even legal aspects, whatever I was selling. I had a sports memorabilia company. I was selling, autographed items online on eBay and in person. And I was just looked for quick cash. That was my thing. I was very good at assessing risk to reward and not making stupid mistakes. And that's how I escalated myself up through not even the ranks of any criminal enterprise or anything like that, just making money and building up my net worth, I guess you could say at that point.
What did you find interesting about it? Or was it just the money aspect that you liked?
It was the money, and it was a rush, especially if you're doing something, you're not supposed to do. It's like being a little kid, mom's not looking, there's a rush to it. And the further you get with it, it's like anything else. It's funny that you're working with Tyson, and I hear him say these things all the time. Hi, Mike, by the way, love you. He uses fear. And I'd say this to a lot of my staff. Fear is there to let you know you're going to encounter something you've never done before, or that you think maybe you won't, succeed at. It doesn't have to be violence or any aspect of life. But my thing was always, I was never not afraid in any situation where I knew there may be an altercation, a debate, a negotiation. I'm always afraid that I may lose. But I was always able to have this switch to walk through it. Still scared. But I knew that if I can get through that, I'll succeed. And if I can get through that one, I can get through the next one now. So I can keep escalating what I'm doing. And I don't just mean in a criminal way. And finally push through and push through and push through it. So you get to a point now you're not numb to fear, but you're able to deal with it and walk through it. And I was never the toughest guy out there, the smartest, none of that. I was just able to lay my cards on the table and say, now we're going to find out who the better man is, the better business is, or whatever it may be. And I'm going to bring you to a place and I'm going to torture your life. And I don't mean this once again violently, even as if we're making a business negotiation, where you're going to walk out. And even if you got the better end of that deal, you're going to say, I never want to go through that again. And now the people around you that saw that, they're not going to want to go through it. So when people realize this, that guy, I might beat him, but it's going to be hell to do it. They're not going to want to do it. And that's just the way it is. And especially in criminal aspects of life, you don't want to deal with someone who is going to fight back, is the best way I could put it. There's guys out there that are tough. They don't give a shit if you're going to fight back. They're going to do whatever they got to do to you. But even those guys, that risk reward is in your head at all times. They just are able to push through it. That's the best way I could describe it.
So it seems like you like the art of business.
Love it. Love it.
Even back then.
Correct. Love all the supply and demand, negotiations. I love it. Once again, don't like to go into some of these things, especially if I know I have no angle or no leverage. It sucks. But you have to do it. You just push through.
So don't you think, like, looking back on it now, you could have done something good with that love of business rather than going
and I did. We'll get on to that. But I was able to take every single, life came full circle for me, man. And I was able to take all the bad I did, and it worked out something really good for me.
All right. So now you're in your 20s. You get fired from this job. You're off on your own.
Yeah.
What happens?
I started the sports memorabilia business, and I was, doing little stupid street things here and there. And I got to a point where I have to be, and I spoke to you about before. I should be careful what I say here. So I got into a specific business where I made a little bit of money. I had a little nest egg, And I won a trip to Foxwoods, the casino. And I'm sitting there with a lifelong buddy. And he's like, I see you're doing well, but do you want to make real money? Like, what do you mean? He's like, do you have balls? I said, fuck yeah, let's do it. He's like, you're going to fly to California. You're going to buy some pot. And you're going to send it back. I said, I don't know how to do this shit. Like, I'll sell weed here. He's like, you'll figure it out when you get there. Because what people do is they'll fly out there and meet brokers, which is the biggest mistake you can make. These brokers lead you to growers, so on and so forth, and you send it back. So I booked my flight a week before the trip. He cancels. Fuck. Now I'm like, okay, well, I went. I still went. I went out there. It was funny. I called another buddy. I was like, bro, I'm going to do this trip to Cali. What am I supposed to do? And it was ironic. He had booked a trip similarly within a 2-date range. So we met out there and we went out there blindly and it worked out. It was the first time, but it progressed from there.
So before he canceled on you, did he already give you the contacts with who you're meeting out there?
Nope.
So how do you just go out there blind to find people? A website?
I went on a website. I don't remember the name of it now, but...
What, find a pot
It's kind of like, what was the thing where people used to get all the hookers, the back page?
Yeah.
They have like a back page for weed dealers out there. Okay. So you go on and you're risking, it's once again risk. I said, fuck it, let's do it. And I got lucky with that particular person and it escalated from there.
Now, this is before 9/11.
Yes. No. This is 2010, I'm sorry.
Oh, so this is years later.
Yeah.
Okay.
The time in between, in and out of construction, I worked at a hospital, in the Greenwich Hospital. It was just regular jobs with a little bit of hustle on the side, but it just wasn't enough for me. I was still struggling to pay the electric bill or pay the rent, and I was fed up. And at that point in 2004, I had my first son, and I knew I had to step my game up, so I continued to find new ways to make money.
Hey, Locked In listeners, let me ask you something. What's tougher, doing time in a 6x8 prison cell or trying to get enough protein in your diet without choking down chalky shakes? I've been hitting the gym hard lately. Seriously, I might as well start charging rent with how much time I spend there. But after a workout, I need real nutrition to fuel my gains, and that's where Orgain's 30-gram complete protein shake comes in. No added sugar, all 9 essential amino acids, and best of all, they actually taste good. I used to dread drinking protein shakes. Most taste like they came straight from a prison kitchen. But Orgain changed the game. Their shakes are smooth, delicious, and don't leave that weird aftertaste. Plus, they keep me full, which is crucial when I'm grinding all day. In fact, I love them so much that I use this insane 30% off promo to stock our entire studio. That's right, every time someone comes through for an interview, they see our fridge loaded with Orgain shakes. It's the only thing keeping my guests from raiding my snacks, and you all know we have a ton of snacks here at the Locked In studio if you've been a former guest on the show. And here's the best part, it's so easy. No mixing powders, no messy prep, just grab, shake, and go. Whether you're on the way to the gym, rushing to work, or just trying to make better choices, Orgain has you covered. They even have a great dairy-free option for anyone that's practicing vegan options. So do yourself a favor, head to Orgain.com/IanBick and use code IanBick for 30% off your order. That's 30% off, but only when you use my code IanBick. One last time, go to Orgain.com/IanBick and use code IanBick for 30% off. I hope you enjoy Orgain just as much as I do. Now let's get back into today's episode.
So in 2010, you would have been able to bring weed back on an airplane in that quantity?
No.
So you're just flying there, getting dropped off, and then driving it back? Or
Mail.
Oh, you're mailing it back. So why would you even have to go out there yourself?
You have to bring the money and pick what you want.
Okay.
So
how do you even know what to look for? You have no experience.
No, at that point I had already been in and out of, if someone needs an ounce of weed, okay, I got you. And I learned, what was what with what. But the price points, what I didn't know is when you get out there, because you're paying a certain amount in New York, you get out there, it's fucking $1,000 cheaper. So just for instance, I went at the first trip out there, I went up to $7,000. By the time I got home and sold everything, I had $17,000 in a day. Now I'm like, fuck, dude. By my third trip, I had $100,000. So at that point, it was all systems go,
And at this point, are you selling in Connecticut or are you selling in New York? Or
mostly New York at that point.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there was a high demand for it.
Well, because nobody had our prices. We were still able to have a massive profit margin and still beat the competitors. It was almost unfair. When I started that, though, and as my money grew, not just New York, but especially New York, if you don't have the proper connections and are too flashy, someone's coming. And either you're going to work out a deal with them, or you're going to get robbed, or something's got to be worked out. And I neglected that in a sense of, I wasn't trying to be disrespectful, but I thought who the fuck I was because I had 100,000. It went to my head a bit. And 2010, the end of 2010, a robbery spree, I should say, started happening where people were wearing FedEx uniforms, knocking on your door with a box. You open the door, and they come in. So 1 week prior, I heard about a person I knew it happening to right up the block from my house, basically. And I'm like, I told my ex-wife, my wife at the time then, but my ex-wife, if a FedEx guy comes here, do not open the door. I was doing construction at the time, but I was still, that was my day job. And I had the weed. It was nothing, I know it sounds like a lot of money, but you're talking minimal amount of weed for that game. And one day I was late for work, just tired, and I'm laying on my couch. It's about 9 a.m. I was supposed to be there at 8 a.m., obviously. Hear her knock the door. I hear her scream. Mind you, she's 9 months pregnant. My 1-year-old sitting in the high chair. These are my second and third children. Hear her scream. I hear get down, face down. I'm thinking it's the cops. They zip tie my hands. I look up. I see a FedEx uniform. There was no search of my house. They went right to my safe. So someone who had been in my house had set me up. They had the gun to my wife's stomach. What was I going to do? But the problem for me wasn't for my wife, and it ended my marriage because I didn't get scared. And it wasn't because I wasn't scared of them with their guns. Mind you, one of them had no mask on. If a gentleman comes to your house with no mask on, he's prepared to kill you because now you see his face. And I knew that in the back of my head, but I'm thinking of my family and my kids. I'm having a full-blown conversation with this guy. He's actually telling me, how do you do this with your kids here and have this money here? I'm like, dude, you're robbing my fucking house. But he's sitting there lecturing me. Sure enough, that happens. And at that point, they start investigating me. Drug dogs came in. The feds come. One representative from the FBI comes, start questioning me. I get a lawyer, back the fuck up off me. He advised me get out of New York. So I moved to Jersey.
Wait, so the feds come because you report that you guys got robbed?
Correct.
Why would you report it?
I guess somewhere along the lines, they were watching me or the people that are getting robbed and making connections to who we were associated with.
So they just automatically showed up?
Well, no, just the cops at first. They kept me outside my house for about an hour. They arrested one of my friends who came to see if I was okay for having a bag of weed in his car, about a 20 bag. They arrest him. So now I know something's up. I'm like, fuck, they got it out for me. They make me sign a paper consenting search. The guy's already stole everything. I don't give a fuck. Go ahead. All of a sudden I see dogs come. I'm like, what are you doing? They're like, well, you need to leave for 6 hours. I said, this is my house. I just got robbed. They were already on to me at that point. So I take my lawyer's advice and I move to Jersey. Now, as I'm leaving that day, I don't remember the detective's name. He introduced me to this lady. No idea who she is. She's like, well, I have a few questions. I said, no, thank you. I'm going. They keep coming to my house in New York at that point, like 10 o'clock at night, hitting me when I know I'm going to be home, knocking on my windows. They're harassing me. Lawyer says, get out of New York. It's the best bet. So I moved to Jersey. This is about 2012 at this point now. I'm already in Jersey. I'm sitting in my backyard setting up a swing set for my children, and the FBI comes rushing into my backyard. We have to know what's going on. I said, they name every fucking friend I have, every person I know, and I'm like, no, I don't know anything. But now in the back of my head, I'm like, holy shit, I'm in deeper than I realized. So I get this bright idea. My wife leaves me. She's like, I can't do this no more. I get this bright idea to move to California because I had met my current fiance there about the similar time right around that year.
How much did they rob from you that day?
Here's where they fucked up. And they're probably watching because I before I say this, I for years was angry about this. And I found out who it was or who's being accused of it. But as years gone on, I realized, like, that's part of the game, dude. Like, I fucked up. And I'm not saying I'm glad they robbed. They shouldn't have did it. It was done incorrectly. You don't involve kids and wives. You don't do that shit. It's cowardly. But I didn't protect myself. I left myself very vulnerable because I thought who the fuck I was. And I was nobody. Who am I? I'm a guy with a couple of bucks. Made a mistake. It was $110,000. I asked for a meeting to try to find out who did it. And I was lying. I was trying to throw some smoke signals. I lied and told everyone it was $40,000. Had one meeting with a particular person. He goes, damn, they got you for 110? I said, excuse me? That's when I knew. That's how, and I got the fuck out of New York, dude. I'm like, at this point, these are supposed to be my friends. I'm out. Mind you, my lifelong friends are still my friends. That was one particular person who I choose not to see anymore. But
did your wife know what kind of business you were involved in?
Yeah. Well, she loved it. everything she wanted, money everywhere, protected, nobody could fuck with us.
Until it went bad.
Yes.
They always leave when it goes bad.
Well, and I don't blame her for this, man. It's like, she's like, you thought you were protecting your family, but by mouthing off to these guys when they have guns to us, you were risking your family. And I didn't think of it that way in the moment. But your natural reaction as a man is to protect your family. And I was super angry. And she's like, you're an animal now. She's like, you weren't afraid and your family could have been. I'm like, it wasn't that I was afraid. If you show weakness, they're going to eat you alive. And I was scared that if I showed them I was scared, what else could happen? They're going to rape my fucking wife. You don't know what's going to happen at that point. There's two of them. I'm zip tied. They even zip tied her leg. I'll tell you what, whoever did the job, they were actually nice to my wife. They were gentle with her because they saw she was pregnant. It was the most strange home invasion I've ever seen, but God bless them. They got away with it. So
you moved to New Jersey.
Yeah.
You know there's an investigation into you.
Yes. And this is when my wife, my ex-wife, leaves me, and she did it. She was, I think, afraid that I wasn't going to let her leave. So she got an order of protection against me. I moved into a hotel. And then one day I showed up at the house and there's a moving truck. And she left and I moved out to California. When I moved out to California and I met my current fiance, I started doing these trips to California more frequently because now I have no wife at home. I can do whatever the fuck I want. And I'm bringing guys from the Bronx out with me. And we made a name for ourselves out there because we're going out with a whole lot of money, strip clubs, nightclubs, beating the shit out of anybody that fucked with us. It was like we built a reputation out there where now they knew when we were coming. We would call ahead. The clubs did anything we wanted. All the local tough guys became friends with us. They weren't trying to, not that they were afraid of us, but it was like they saw we were legitimate guys. No fuck, we don't bother you, you don't bother us. And I kind of had her name's Shay. I love you, Shay. So she introduces me to this group of guys from, if there is an Italian mafia here, the Asian one. So the running joke actually, because now when this happens, I explode financially. And there's a running joke, my buddy Gary, he's like, this is the funniest thing in the world. You're one of the best earners I know, but you can never get made because you're not Asian and you're not fully Italian. So it was a running joke for years with him. But I climbed the ranks, in a sense, out there pretty fucking quickly to the point where they will allow me to collect their money out in New York for them. I didn't realize who they were at first, though. And that's the honest truth. I knew they were somebody because we would walk into nightclubs and it would part like the Red Sea as we walked through. So I knew I was in something, but I was worried about the money. Didn't care who they were until I met the boss, Shrimp Boy, who happens to be the John Gotti of the Asians at this point out there. And sweetheart of a guy, nice guy. I met him once or twice. And then I realized the associates he was with were his right-hand men. So I stepped in shit. At that point, I'm like, this is great because now I don't have to worry about, I'm here, top guy. They trust me with their money. And then when I'm in New York collecting for them, I'm realizing I'm getting the same respect that I get in California with them here. That's how powerful these men were.
So you moved back to New York?
I was never in I would go to New York, pick the money up, come back to California. Now, I didn't pick the money up and bring it back to California. They would tell me who to give it to, and that was it. And I that's how the whole, as we get along here, I'll explain to you how that's how the Feds infiltrated them. Now,
Shrimp Boy, he's an Asian guy that was like what was the actual organization called?
I can't remember. I'd have to Google it to be honest with you. It's similar to the Triads.
Okay.
I think that it's a division of, actually. I'm probably getting killed for saying that now.
And it's all on
no, it's all over the news.
And he grew up in California, or he?
I don't know his origins.
Okay.
Like I said, I met him twice in my life. First time was a handshake. Second time was a nod. I didn't want to get too close.
And a low-level guy was able to meet someone that high up?
This is what I thought about later.
Okay.
Yeah. Like I said, though, the gentleman I was with, I won't say his name because I still love the guy. We don't talk anymore, but he introduced me to his, I don't want to say boss, personal friend, but ranking-wise was right below Shrimp Boy. So I was there as a friend, and the business grew. Then I was able to actually hang out with them and go to nightclubs with them. And they're great. Listen, I know they're super scary people from the outside looking in. But that's what a lot of people don't get when you watch these movies and see all this stupid shit with gangster. These are regular people that just have more balls than you. It's all it is. I'm dead serious. We go out, great dinners, laugh. They're all great guys. They're criminals, and there's murders involved in my case, but murderers can be cool people too. I know it sounds crazy to say, but you flick a switch on these people, and that's it happens. It is a realistic thing. You kind of can't judge a book by its cover. And I know it sounds weird defending a murderer, but these weren't what you see in the movies. These weren't scary guys. They were regular guys that if you fucked around, that's it.
Attention locked in listeners, imagine this. You're inside a high stakes prison yard and every move counts. You've got to make the right call or you're out. That's what it's like playing Prize Picks, where your decisions matter and every pick could be the one that gets you the big win. With over 10 million members and billions in winnings, Prize Picks is the best way to get in on real money daily fantasy action. It's simple. Pick more or less on at least 2 player projections and get a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. With the Super Bowl almost here, Prize Picks is making it easier than ever to win real money. You could get a free pick where one of the starting quarterbacks only needs to throw 1 yard to win. Just pair it with one more correct pick and you can cash out big. Check out the promos tab to tail any of their Super Sweat Millie winners' big game lineups. If you follow a lineup that goes 3 for 3, you'll get a split of $1 million in promo funds. I've been locked in on Prize Picks lately, and let me tell you, it's easier to use than a prison commissary order sheet. I could set my lineup in under 60 seconds, and when I win, I get my cash fast, safe, and secure, sometimes in just 15 minutes. So what are you waiting for? Download the app today and use code IANBICK to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's right, just play $5 and you get $50 guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your game. Now let's get back into today's episode.
Did you ever ask how he got the name Shrimp Boy?
No, you didn't. I tried to keep conversations to it. Like I said, it was twice, and I was going based off of everyone in the Bronx knows someone who's connected. And you know to have respect for somebody, and you don't speak unless you're spoken to. That's my theory with anything, especially meeting someone on that level. I'm not interested in making small talk. If you say hi, I say hi. I'll show you respect, but I'm not gonna pick. I don't really want to dig too much. That's all that. Because if you dig, when you get to that level, automatically questions fed. I would assume you're a cop right away. So I shut the fuck up. I sat there. I drank my drink. That was it.
All right. So now you're hooked up with these guys. Yeah. Tell us the first mission they send you on.
First time I went out there with cash and they sent the weed. This is my lucky and oh God. So the first time I finally to get them to allow me to have credit, which you need in this game. You're going to have to, there's a lot of credit-based maneuvers. They send me the credit. I sell everything. I send the fucking money back. I've never lost a box of money in my life. The box gets lost. Now I'm like, oh my God, 77. I never forget the amount, $77,000. So I'm like, fuck, dude. I have to call and explain myself. Thankfully, the guy understood. But I could always see he had that. It was about 3 months later. We're going out. We continued to do business. 3 months later, I checked my mail in my California apartment. He's with me. I open my mail, and it's a letter from the Postal Service asking if I want to claim my $77,000. I said, here. So he knew, but we didn't claim the money, obviously. But yeah, he knew I wasn't fucking around. It was.
Wait, you put your return to sender address on shipping money? Doesn't that seem risky?
Anything I do business-wise, even in a criminal underworld, I review what I'm doing. If you're smart about things, even today, there are systems in place that will work forever. You can arrest whoever you want. Someone will just come up behind it. And if you're knowledgeable enough to learn how the business system works with LLCs, so on and so forth, there's only so much they can do. I mean, if money's legitimately made, people wash money. That's it. So if money is washed and they claim it, here's my proof that's my money. Why'd they mail it? I don't even remember what. I had a whole plan because I wanted to claim the money. They wouldn't allow me to. They're like, fuck, we know you're telling the truth. The money's gone. Don't worry about it. I wanted to claim it because I had virtual offices on both coasts that if you call and they ask for the name of my business, you need Norge? Okay. And they forward you the call. So if you're outside looking in, I'm on both coasts with my company. I had 14 virtual offices all over the United States. So there was no way for them to say, well, you don't work. Yes, I fucking do. And I had invoices, which burned me in the end. Well, I'll tell you about that. But I had proof of everything I did, legitimately washing my money. And if you had to try to confiscate my money, I had proof of where it came from. It wasn't being washed like I wasn't buying laundromats and car washes like everyone else does. I was able to set up LLCs and pay myself, in a sense. I guess the best way, quarterly dividends.
But what was the product that you were saying was that,
shit.
That
I had an advertising company. at a promotional company. And I would go to nightclubs and slap my logo on their flyer. Because this is back before, this is when the flyers leave on your windshields. I'd be all over the place. My company, I have nothing to do with the show.
So, and you would just deposit cash into your account?
Correct. With an invoice to the club. The club, now mind you, the club doesn't even know they're invoicing me. I'm making these invoices myself.
And you're just saying that they paid you in cash?
Correct.
And that you were a promoter for the night or whatever?
Correct.
Okay. So if anyone dug deep enough, they would have figured it out.
The feds didn't, and I don't know. I mean, I don't think they gave a fuck at that point because they had enough. But they hit me with money laundering. But it wasn't for what I was doing. And I'll explain after. But after we meet these guys, and it's going on. I've even been stopped at airports with money. So if anyone gets stopped in an airport with money, they're allowed to confiscate it if it's over $10,000. And their backing is 80% of U.S. currency has cocaine on it. That's the reason to steal it. They took my money. It happened to me once. They took about 20 grand from me. I was able to get 66% back after the lawyer got it back. But they're legally allowed to take it from you because once it's over 10, they're allowed to confiscate it. If they find cocaine residue on it, which is on everyone's money, and you don't even know it, they have a case to keep it. And you have to prove that you're not a drug addict at this point or a cocaine dealer.
Yeah, you took it out of your account or something.
It was money straight from the bank. That's the crazy part. But what can I do? I don't know who. Someone ripped the line with my $100 bill. It's not my fault, dude.
All right. So back to that first, the $70,000 that you lost. Mm-hmm. You're telling me they just forgave that your first time you get credit?
Correct.
That not many people are going to believe that.
This is a multi-million-dollar industry at this point. I didn't know how big. I didn't know much at this point. Actually, I didn't know how big they were until after I was arrested.
How many times have you done good business with them before, though? That wasn't just your first time.
That was the first, probably about 5.
Okay, so they knew who you were.
Yeah.
And you had already been doing, it's
Correct.
not like it was your first time.
They were somehow allegedly able to call back on the East Coast and vet me, from what I was told.
Okay.
So I was given the green light.
Okay.
Now, I mentioned that procedure with handing the money to someone. I don't know how the feds infiltrated these guys, and it's a fucking amateur night. And sorry, fellas, for saying that, but this shit wouldn't happen on the East Coast. So they have this guy in California who's going out to strip clubs saying he's part of a certain family in New York. Looks like an Italian guy, whatever. And he infiltrates them, starts hanging out with them. And they, I don't know why, gave them their process of how they get the money back here. He makes them a better percentage, a point less on the fee for getting it back here. They decide they want me to represent them. And I'm sit down with this guy because he's Mafia. So he fools them and tells them, yeah, what's the guy's name? Norge. It's on the wire fucking taps. And I'm like, why would they even give my name? That was fucked up, number one. He alleges to them, I called back my crew. Norge is solid. I know his boss out there. First of all, I wasn't aligned with any crew out there. I knew everybody, but I wasn't in any crews or a made guy or nothing like that. That's all shit. So they call me like, well, he knows you anyway. You're a stand-up guy. We're going to need you to start meeting him or have a sit down with him. The first fucking meeting, we get there about 5 minutes late, and he's standing outside in a suit, well-dressed guy, dressed like a gangster. So I'm first read, I'm like, okay. When we get up to him, he's like, I introduced myself, hey, Norge, whatever. And he says to my partner, I hope this is indicative of our future dealings. I said, what? There's not a fucking gangster in New York that's going to use the word indicative on the first. That was the first telltale sign for me. Then he orders tuna tartare. I look at Al, I'm like, I just said his name, so Al. Sorry, Al. Either way, I look at Al, I'm like, something's wrong. And he's not talking directly to me. He's talking to my buddy, and my buddy goes to the bathroom. He turns to me and he's like, listen, we're going to need I really like the job you're doing. Maybe at one point I could talk to you personally. I have a grow going up north. I'm like, whatever, dude. I'm like, fine. He's like, I just need you to get me at least $1 million a week in my hands to make it worth it for me from East Coast to West Coast. I'm like, I said, no problem, easy. That got me indicted. Those 3 words. That's what got me indicted.
So Shrimp Boy's crew is sending you to this meet.
Yeah.
And this guy is wanting to take your place in it?
He wants me to collect for him now. He wants me to collect their money for him.
To collect Shrimp Boy's money.
Correct. So but the money has to get back to California somehow.
But I thought you were already collecting Shrimp Boy's money.
And handing it to somebody else.
Okay.
So let's consider it a company and they get your money back. He's got his own company now and he wants to take over and for a percentage point less. And it sounds like a good deal. 1% sounds like a little bit, but with the amount of money that's flowing through there, it becomes a lot.
But why are they sending you? You were that high up in their crew?
These feds are fucking smart, man. Italians are going to want to deal with Italians. Asians are going to deal with it's just a cultural thing. So I don't know if they were on to me yet, but he told them I need someone, an Italian guy from New York that's connected to do this, or I'm not working with him. They could have already been on to us and just set me up to get into that fucking room, or they played him and just, wanted to see who's collecting for them.
And you just happened to be the only
I was the only Italian guy in that with them.
And non-Asian guy too.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did they have any other guys, like white guys, anything working for them?
I was the only Italian. They had it was so spread out, the indictment, but yeah, in our particular circle, I was the only white guy, only Italian guy. Everyone else was Asian.
All right. So you admit on that wiretap to being willing to commit a crime?
Yeah.
Okay.
That got me indicted.
How long after do you get indicted from that conversation?
I remember I went to, things started getting a little weird. So I started meeting these guys in the Grand Garden State Plaza in Jersey. And they had me fooled, bro. Like, I remember two guys in particular, big dudes, spoke the lingo, new guys I knew, scars on their faces, knuckles all bruised up. It looked like they beat the shit out of somebody that weekend, invite me to nightclubs in Atlantic City, and I never wanted to hang out with them, but they knew what you should know if you're from the East Coast in that area, in Tri-State area. So they had me fooled, but one day they fucked up and they had a guy sit in the car as opposed to getting out. They always get out to greet me, but this one particular guy wouldn't get out. And I told my guys back in Cali, I said, they're fucking feds, bro, I'm telling you. He's like, there's no way. They know they'd end up dead. I said, bro, I don't care what you think. They're feds. So I decided, I got this bright idea, start paying people to go meet them instead. One being my friend at the time, Gino, and a couple other guys. But either way, as I'm sending them, I didn't know the laws on this shit. If you ask me to go do something, they're not getting hit with it. That's another charge on you, another count. So although I only met them twice, I got hit with 19 counts of money laundering. But I only met them twice. I was put into a room to talk to these guys. I didn't want to be there. This shit all compounded. And once I figured it out, I continued to live life, but I had a little weird feeling about it. And my buddy started saying, something's up with those guys, bro. It ain't right. All of a sudden, my business accounts start getting locked. No, I haven't gotten picked up yet. They're not giving reasons why. So now I reach out to Gino. I'm like, bro, we got a problem. I was like, I don't know what's going on, but I feel it. I go back to Cali and I get a call from my buddy who's out there with another friend from New York, and they asked me if I want to go hang out for a drink. No, I'm good, whatever. I didn't want to see the other guy, and I didn't really hang out with him too often. It ends up, he's a rat. He takes down 90%, well, a whole lot of people that I know in New York. I don't get picked up. But I wasn't working with them anyway, but at the same time, I'm like, how the fuck? So my friend gets bailed out. I remember sitting in a strip club, and I'm like, brother, I'm just waiting for it to happen. I wish I would get it over with already. Now, those guys that I went to that strip club with, and they know who they are, these guys were my core crew. There was no boss. We were 5 or 6 guys. We became very close and did business together. And that's it. And with them getting picked up, the rest of us was wondering, how? How are we not, Sure enough, a couple months pass. And I always told Gino, because Gino was a friend of about, at that point, 10 years. Gino was not built for that life. And I kind of made it fun for him to come to California. And he became a good earner. And they always told me, listen, if we get pinched, he's going to tell. And that's my fault. I put him in some very dangerous situations that I shouldn't have. And I don't agree with what he did. Don't get me wrong. But I knew if it ever happened, he was going to. And I don't mean that in a bad way toward Gino, but he's not built for prison, bro. And he's not built for that life. And I dragged him. I almost forced him into it by, here, 20 grand, 10 grand. You keep doing it. Now he's driving a $100,000 car. Now he's locked in. He doesn't want to leave. So I always told him, because I would never stay in one state for more than a week. California, Florida, I bounce all over the place, Vegas. And I always told him, if you ever get somebody at the door to pick me up, say, hey, bud, did you set the alarm? Ask me. And if I say, no, I'm sorry, I rephrase that. Let's say we had a visitor, and I'm going to ask you if we set the alarm. And if you say no, I know it's the feds. So I go out to this club in the city one night. I was fighting with my girlfriend, We lived in White Plains at the time, and I shoot out to the club. I get drunk, and I stay at a friend's house because I'm fucked up. I wake up to 100 missed calls from him, and only him. Dude, what's up? He's like, oh, we had a visit today. I said, you set the alarm? He goes, no. I said, fuck. So I jump on the phone with Brian, or Gino at that point. Brian calls me. Brian's an associate of Gino's. Of mine as well. We didn't do much business together, but I met Brian in Cali and kind of brought him back to New York with me, in a sense, let him meet everybody and started doing business with them. I'll get to him later, but Brian calls me. He gets me this lawyer, Bruno. Puts down, I don't know if it was 5 or 10 grand, and I shoot to Bruno's office. I call my other guy who I knew had been working for me, but if I'm in California, he's kind of running around for me. So I had to tell him and Gino, meet me at the lawyer's office. Get to the lawyer's office, and Bruno's like, what do you want to do? I said, well, turn me in. I said, let's get it over with, fuck it. But I see Gino's leg doing this. I'm like, what the fuck are you so worried about? He's like, well, they came in. I'm like, did they indict you? You want any paperwork? You get cuffed? He said, no. I'm like, what'd they find? Now, this is in front of Bruno. Like a bag of Coke and a couple of pounds. I said, and you didn't get arrested? He goes, no, and his leg's shaking. I'm like, fuck, I knew it. Jim Bruno goes, we're going to turn you in. Go out to the parking lot, smoke your cigarette. I'll come outside, leave your car here, your jewelry, whatever. I go outside, there's fucking 6,000 fucking, they're everywhere. Guns drawn. And this guy comes up and he's like, he's being a smartass to me. And they open my trunk, I had a baseball bat in the trunk. So now he thinks I'm this violent offender or whatever else. And he's like, I'm going to do you a favor. Take your money out of your pocket. Take your jewelry off. He goes, Gino. I said, what the fuck? I know. So they bring me in and they bring you into this weird, I didn't even know it existed in White Plains. They have an FBI office in White Plains. I don't know if people know that. And they start asking me questions about people I've never heard in my life. So now I'm baffled. I'm like, I'm thinking I'm on this East Coast case with my friends. They're not being mentioned yet. So I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Then I can't even if I wanted to be a rat fuck, I couldn't. I didn't know what was going on. They finally they get fed up with me. They're like, all right, fuck it. You're going into holding. They bring me to another, I don't even know what town I was in because they never told me. When I get there, they put a guard in front of my door and they took my asthma inhaler away. I'm like, why? What's going on? They're like, you're on suicide watch. Now I'm like, fuck. Yeah, I know something big is coming. And they wake me up. They bring me to the federal courthouse in White Plains. I have my hand, I'm cuffed behind. And when they bring you to those barricades, you're not facing the marshal to bring you back. When I turn, I have my head down because I'm miserable. I hear Norge. It's a kid I graduated high school with. So I was able to get ahead. And he tells me, you've got a big problem. $250,000 bail. So I don't know. I call my father, I get bailed out. And then I shoot back to White Plains, my apartment. In the apartment, I had $235,000 cash. Hidden. I get in there, the money's gone, my house is ransacked, but there's like 10 pounds of weed in the house. I'm like, what the fuck? The cops. So basically, when I was gone that night, they knocked on my door to pick me up already. They were already there, and my fiance opens the door and says he's not here. My stupid ass left a money counter on the counter with singles. That gave them a right for search. They had no right for search. I fucked up. They come in, they told her, listen, if you tell us where he is, we'll let you go. She refused. My current girlfriend, friend, fiance, whatever, I'll take over any dude in the world. She shut the fuck up. They took everything out. The problem was after I found this out later, when they came in, they didn't search the house. They went right to the money. Once again, now I know there's a rat. They held her for 7 days. While she's in there, they're telling her, I'm telling on her. You know how they play the game. They put you in separate rooms, tell you, this guy's saying this. And that was that at that point. That's where I knew I was in some shit. I fly back out to California for my first court appearance, and all the furniture in my house is gone. Shay believed him. Now, this is how stand-up she is. She thought I was giving her up, so she had her family go remove the furniture and still wouldn't tell me. Anyway, my poor lawyer had to sleep on the couch, but I went to that first hearing. I kind of found out what was going on, and it all stemmed from that. I was being accused of laundering about $1.5 million. Each box accumulated, and that's what they hit me with.
And that was all from that initial conversation. So how much time had passed now between that conversation and the arrest that you got caught on wire for?
Months, 4 or 5 months.
And you had no idea that they were...
Not a clue. And I kept telling them, I had a feeling about him, but even in my whole discovery, every time they were watching me, they were watching the wrong fucking place. They were watching California while I was in New York. They were watching New York while I was in Vegas. I did that purposely because I was very paranoid. I never wanted to stay somewhere for more than 7 days. I'm out. And I would always, all over the country. And we all did it. Me, Gino, and Brian. We were never in one spot for too long. So it wasn't even business. It was more of we were accustomed to. We were living the life. Women, casinos, strip clubs, the whole night. I put a lot of kids through college, bro. But we were living the life. And in that life, you're going to live your wildest dreams, bro. And you're going to have your worst nightmares as well. And that's what people don't get. When you get to that level, you're going to see the things you've never seen before. And you're going to also deal with shit where you're going to be laying in the cell crying one night.
Now, was this when the Shrimp Boy case broke open, when you got indicted? Did they indict everyone at the same time and you were caught up on that Rico?
Here's what's fucked up. So myself, my associate, and one other person, they couldn't get right away. Because mind you, they did the bust the day before. So my fiance's Filipino, so I didn't realize, I was on if you went on back then AOL, it was the cover story. And it's putting me as a dangerous fugitive. Dude, I'm driving up the West Side Highway, calm down. I just didn't get there quick enough for them to arrest me, but that's how her mother never met me. And she sees going down the bottom of the screen, Norge Mastrangelo, dangerous fugitive on the Filipino channel. So that wasn't a very good first impression, but I get into court and I'm looking around. I don't know anyone. I had 19 co-defense, and I know none of them except my two associates and Shrimp Boy. So I immediately, I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
Where'd they end up indicting Shrimp Boy, in L.A. or
San Francisco? Northern District of California.
They brought him out here, though?
No. My case, I was the only New York person in the California case.
So did they extradite you out there? Or?
I already had, I was always residing in California. I had an apartment there, so technically I was a resident, even though I wasn't there often. But they were able to keep me there. Probation-wise, they had to allow me to do both states with permission to fly because I have children. So my problem was, as in any case, and anybody will tell you, and I'm sure you went through this too, the second you get arrested by the FBI, people are going to assume you're telling. So I lost a lot of friends. They didn't know. My core group stayed together. They didn't know I was no rat, but it just became very uncomfortable to the point where I had people watching my house, my friends, to make sure who was watching me. There were cars. People that were sitting on me, just to see if I was talking to cops, shit like that. Mind you, when they pulled that money from my apartment, I had a detective in White Plains Police Department that I was friends with, and she called me. She's like, what is wrong with you, bro? Why would you get into this? What were you doing over $200,000 in the house? So I'm in California talking to her for my first court appearance, but I'm calling New York. I said, listen, you had an idea I was in some shit, man. I'm sorry, whatever bullshit. I go out to Shay's case, and I have my buddy Paulie put up the bill for his house. Mind you, all my liquid's gone. I have product in the street. I have no cash left because they took it all. And these people aren't answering their phones because assuming I'm in a federal case, why answer me? So Paulie was nice enough to put his house up. I get the paperwork and they're like, and what they took from my house, and it says $160,000 cash. So now I'm like, wait a sec, where's the other 75? They use that as leverage. The cops are scumbags. So the lawyer comes out and I have to hire a second lawyer now because my lawyer can't represent both Cheryl and I. So I'm already, now at this point, I'm 6 figures deep in legal fees. Fuck. All right. I get him. He says, listen, you want to make a big deal out of it? You can't do anything. He said, you got a federal case running concurrent now. So we worked out a deal for her where I took blame for everything in the house and ran a concurrent with my case, the federal case. I pulled those charges. They give her a misdemeanor, like a violation, a ticket. She kept her mouth shut. That was over. But at that point now why is Shay out? People are starting to think, is Norge a rat? How the fuck's his girl? He's out. Literally, no, it's $250,000 bill for me, and it was $25,000 for her, and $100,000 in lawyer fees. I'm already almost $500,000 in the hole, but nobody wants to, they're going to assume.
But yours was a federal bill. You didn't have to pay any money.
We put 2 houses up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just a signing a paper.
Yeah, but my father, he was so pissed off because my father grew up on Arthur Avenue. He purposely left New York to avoid that life. And he, my brother's attorneys, they work great jobs. They're like reputable guys. And he's like, what the fuck are you doing, bro? Like, you're the older one. So he was so mad at me. And my mom at that point, I believe to this day, this case killed her, man, because her health started to deteriorate really quickly. To the point she actually wrote a letter to the district attorney, can I do the time for my son? She's like, I'll just die in there. She's like, she was so heartbroken over it, man. And that's we move forward the case then. And it just, being in that courtroom, Now, if you're in there with a bunch of your buddies and a bunch of white guys, and I come in, this Asian guy, you're going to look at me funny, right? That's going to be a rat right there. But I knew that my guys knew I wouldn't do that in New York. But now, while this is happening, me and Shay get pregnant, okay? And I didn't know, I noticed more and more when I went to these court hearings, less and less people are there. I got to assume why aren't you here? You're a witness now. And then it was such a loose-lipped, we would all be in line to check in with probation on coming out of the courtroom, and I'm listening. And I hear, well, if you do this and I do this, we're both going to get off, and then he does this, basically ratting up. If you and I get arrested, Ian, and my buddy Rich outside, well, Ian, you telling me and I'm going to tell him Rich, and we're both going to walk fuck Rich. I hear this happening. Now, I'm not being included in this conversation. And if you go in and proffer or rat, whatever you're going to do, you don't get to just tell up. You got to tell down too. So I'm looking at myself, now what the fuck, dude? No one's, where's my help? They wouldn't bail out my girl. I asked them for bail money for my girl. That's why my friend put the house up. They offered me no lawyer money. They're the ones who put me in the room with these fucking guys. I was angry. And I tried to talk to them. So we worked out a deal to maybe help me out financially by letting me work again. Now I'm like, fuck, dude, super risky, but we all needed money. So we're on a phone. I don't remember what the app is, where if you and I have a conversation and I take a picture of it, it'll notify you.
Snapchat.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I'm old. So I'm talking to him and I get the notification that we're talking pricing. And I'm like, what the fuck? But he texts me, did you just take a picture of the screen? We both got it. These fuckers were on our phones. Now we're super fucked. So I now go back to New York. Well, I'm in New York at this point. I go out for my birthday. I don't know Gino's cooperating yet. I go out. The rumor is he is. I won't believe it. I'm out for my birthday. And I just got a few drinks in me and I'm watching him. And now I'm with some higher level guys at this point. They're at the table with us. And I see the knee going. I'm like, fuck. So my friend whispers in my ear. He goes, you see? We go outside and let's just say I assaulted him. And I'll tell you what, I respect him for this. And it's weird to say you respect someone but in front of everybody, he goes, I fucking did it. He goes, I didn't know what to do. He admitted it in front of everybody. And it worked out for me in a sense, though, because the feds thought I was involved in the cocaine aspect of it and rocket launchers that were being sold. And even we had a police officer even, supplying bulletproof vests for us. And they thought that was me. And Gino was like, listen, we sell weed. That's the extent of what we do. It kind of helped me at the end of the case because all they had was a one wiretap me saying get the money there, over $1 million, and then I sell some pot. That's all they had. So by the time after this happens with Gino, I called my lawyer. I said, I fucked up, dude. And he said, stay away from him because if you assault a federal witness, they add time. Mind you, we didn't know he was yet, so they couldn't hurt me with that. They couldn't charge me with it. So I went to his restaurant the next day. Gino owns a restaurant. I'm like, bro, what'd they tell you? What'd you tell them? And he told me everything. I said, what does Brian think of this? Now, Brian was the guest you had in this show, and we lived together in the house. Brian had caught his case that he told you about. Gino decided to get this bright idea to hide Brian in his fucking house. Bad idea. But he tells me, Brian told me to do what you got to do. You owe Norge nothing. I said, motherfucker. I said, okay, but I can't do anything. Where am I going to do? Beat him up, go kill Brian or something, make it worse. I let it go with Brian. Time passes, the case goes on. I know I got the Italian side or the New York side of this, wonder if I'm a rat. I've got the Cali side, wonder if I'm a rat. I'm in a pickle here, bro. And I'm like, I move out to Cali and I decided I got this bright idea in my head. If I move back there and work legally in a strip club, there's a row of strip clubs right in the center of where they all are, they'll know I'm not telling. That's what I did. And that, thankfully they saw I wasn't because I would see them still. Not much communication, but they knew if I'm ratting, I'm not coming out there. Case goes on and it's getting slimmer and slimmer, the amount of people in my courtroom when I get there. So it gets to a point where I know I'm going down. And now I'm like, fuck it. On my range, I was looking at 1 to 4 or a year and a day to 4. And I'm like, 4 years sucks, do a drug program, take a year and a half off, fuck it. But then I'm like, wait a second. I don't know what happens if this gets put into Rico. Sure enough, It was so big, they broke it into Rico 1 and Rico 2. I knew there was shit going on that if I got brought into that Rico, I'm fucked. And it ended up there was murder involved, which that didn't come from my mouth. These guys ratted up and gave them murder. 2 murders. Was I aware of them at the time? No. And that's the honest truth. I knew there was crazy shit going on. I didn't know this guy killed anybody. But so I get, my lawyer gets an email from the district attorney saying, last chance we're pulling him into Rico. I was like, Bruno, what does that even mean? He's like, they want you to fucking snitch. I'm like, I can't. I'm not doing it, bro. My son, like, at this point, I have a son who's of age that knows what's going on. I have friends and family. Like, that's not in my blood, bro. And I said, take the meeting. I said, just explain to him, I'm not doing anything. I said, I need to know what they're charging me with because now I don't know what's going on. I really didn't know at this point. We go into this fucking, I don't even remember where the office was, and they come in with the DEA and the U.S. attorney and some other guy, I don't know who the fuck he was. They've got a book this thick. If there was a guy I farted next to on a bus 10 years ago, they knew his name. They had my whole life in there. And they told me if at any point you don't feel comfortable, ask us to leave the room and talk to your attorney. And to this day, my attorney tells me I'm a sick fuck. So they're going through all these names. No, thank you. No, thank you. No, thank you. I finally said, guys, do me a favor. I need a second my attorney. I said, Bruno, I can't do it. So after they left the room, I was like, I'm not going to hear this shit. That's everybody I know. He's like, so what do you want to do? I said, have them come back in. And they come back in where I'm like, guys, you have to understand my position. I try playing the card where I'm scared for my life. I'm like, I can't, I can get killed. Sorry, these Asians are crazy. Then this is hand to God. I said, you know what? I apologize. They're like, what do you mean? I said, I'm lying. They look at me like I'm nuts. I said, these are good guys. They're all fucking good guys, and we fucked up. I said, here's what I can give you. Nothing. I said, have a nice flight home. They said, we just ask you a few more questions? And that's where this fuck Brian's name came up. Now, I couldn't figure out, I wasn't allowed to talk to Gino to know where Brian was. But Gino had called me, ironically, maybe 3 weeks before this meeting and said, could you please help me find Brian? I'm like, bro, you can't call me. You understand that, right? I'm like, why? So when Gino decided to cooperate, Brian incentivized him to do so and was sending him money every month to keep his lifestyle going. Now, I don't know about you, Ian, but if my friend Rich out there told on you and I start paying him and enabling him, that's a rat too in my eyes. So they bring his name up and I'm like, can I have another second? And I asked him to leave the room again. I'm like, Bruno, did I just hear this shit? And they named Brian and one of his friends. Now, his friend, I'm not going to say his name, I like. And I have no reason to hurt that guy. So I'm like, what do I do here, Bruno? Now, I know if Gino's taking the stand against me, I got to tear his character down. So I get this bright idea. They come back in. I'm like, I don't know where Brian is. I have no idea. I said, but he's the one funding my fucking rat. So the way I see it now, you have the guy testifying against me harboring a fugitive. So his testimony is not going to stand up in court in my eyes. So here's what I'll do for you guys. I'll plead guilty to everything I'm charged with. I want to be left alone. And that's what I did. And I walked out of my heart's racing. Once again, fear. I walked through it. I'm like, fuck, bro, I might have fucked up. We left, and Bruno's like, you might have just fucked yourself. So I tell them I plead guilty, and I have all 19 co-defendants. I pled guilty. I pulled myself out of the case. Now, I know that upset these Asians because if you and I commit a crime together and I plead guilty and you're fighting the case, it's kind of hard for you to win.
Well, that's a lot of people look at that as snitching in itself, too.
Correct.
Because you're acknowledging there was a criminal organization.
Yes, but they weren't charging me. I made sure to look into what I was doing. They were charging me with money laundering, nothing else. So I figured that was my out. And I had a feeling they were going to rat up and down. You can't go one way. You don't get to tell on you. You have to tell on behind you, up, everything. Sure enough, they did. So thank God. I thank God to this day I did it because I would have if I fight, I'm in Rico now. And I'm getting charged with every fucking, you know how Rico works. You're hit with everything. It's conspiracy. So I got out, and I think they understood I had to get out. But when I get to court that day and I'm here to plead guilty, the judge clears the courtroom. I'm like, what the fuck? Now, they told me after negotiating with my attorney that they may be able to get me down to a year and a day, from probation to a year and a day, because they had nothing. Thank God. Go to court, and they clear the courtroom. I'm like, Bruno, what the fuck is going on, dude? And the judge goes, it's for your safety. I'm like, what? And he's like, you have to understand, you're pleading guilty before all 19 co-defendants. I said, no, I don't want to see this Rico. I don't know. I really, at this point, still didn't know the extent of the crimes. So I had to protect myself and my family in that sense. And it wasn't me telling. And I swear to you, hand to God, Ian, if you could find, and I will put up $100,000 bounty on this. If you could find one person to sit in this chair and say, I put them in jail ever, I'll come here and pay them right there, hand to hand right there. Never happened. And that's why when Brian said that I snitched on him, I couldn't figure out why me. So 2 days before the show, I did call Gino. And he's like, I'm like, listen, I'm sorry to bother you. Why is Brian, he sent me your video. And I'm like, why is he saying this about me? Gino admitted he was wrong. It was me. I'm like, what do you mean it was me? He was like, they interviewed me. He's like, I didn't know where he was either. What Brian fucked up, the genius that he is, which I found this out now. So he decided to take Gino's name, social security, birth certificate, and get a whole new identity. He became Gino as well now. He stops paying Gino. Moves out to, I don't remember where he said he moved out to. So they're out of contact. He can't contact Gino no more because he's ran all these bills up on Gino's credit. Cars, medical bills. Destroyed his whole life. He decides to book a flight from wherever he was to Vegas. He just has really bad luck. The same exact day of his flight, the same Gino has a flight booked from New York to Florida. They caught it. And that's how Gino got interviewed. They said, how the fuck you flying to two places at once? So mind you, go back to my interview with them. I had told them, this piece of shit's funding my rat. And this is the guy you're putting on the stand? They connected the dots. They contacted Gino, said, here you go. I don't call that snitching. I call that checkmate. You're funding this guy, dude. Like, I respect that less than what Gino did. It's fucked up. And these podcasts, and by the way, I respect what you do, and I think it's awesome because you show that there's a dark side to this shit, dude, and you can make a better life for yourself. But guys like this jump on these podcasts and glamorize what they did and blame people, and it makes me sick. Whether it be a rat or not, this life is so fucked up. And to come on here and to talk about your mom suffering, and I hope she's okay, Brian, but you're blaming everyone else. You committed the crime. I told him never get on that fucking plane, number one. Two, if you know these guys are torturing your mom, man, turn your fucking self in, dude. Like that was my whole thing. My mom was getting sick, and I had to watch her go through hell and turn into a 50-pound woman, like nothing from what I was putting her through, and watch my father be my kids. And to come up here and say that I did that when he has no idea what I went through, what my family went through. And I stood tall. And like I told you, Ian, if you could find, once this goes out there, if someone could say, I put him in jail, please come right here. It'll never happen, dude. And it upset me because my friend hid you out. I allowed you to come into New York, got your head fucking taken off because you're coming out here making money and no one's bothering you because you're friends with me and my friends, not because you're a salesman, dude. And I really did like Brian until I saw that interview. I was shocked. I couldn't believe he did that to me. But
so what happens at court?
to clear the courtroom, I see two armed guards come in with rifles. I almost fainted. I'm like, what the fuck? So the judge explained to me that once this process is over and I exit those doors, they can't protect me. And now I'm like, Bruno, what the fuck? I thought this was a good deal, good for me to do. And he was like, Norge, it's not snitching, but you won out. And they didn't understand that I knew what was happening. And I knew crimes that weren't on the news yet and crimes that weren't in court yet. And I knew what was coming. And I knew that they were going to rat up, which they did. And this is all on record, man. These guys, the two main guys did do some time, but they were released. My direct partner did 0 days in jail. I don't know if he took the stand. I'm not going to speak for him. We haven't spoke. And to this day, I still love the guy, man. And it was unfortunate the way that relationship ended, but that technically is snitching. I agree. But it wasn't, people don't get that there was more behind it. It wasn't me snitching. It was, I knew what the fuck was going to happen. I got ahead of it. And I got myself out. Who's getting pulled into Rico for dropping a box of money off? I'm going to do time for cocaine and rocket launches and murder? Do I look like a fucking idiot? So I tried to reach out to them while this is all going on. And I'm like, what's going on? Are you guys doing what I think you're doing? And his exact words to me, we're going to be good. I can't associate myself with that. Although I know I would have did no jail time and had to be a felon right now, I'm not going to attach myself to snitching. I'd rather just walk and take my time, dude. Like, that's it. That was the whole thing about it. Like, they, to this day, and it's funny if they blame or you gave up a murder. You know it wasn't because of me, bro. All I did was give them a box of money to somebody. So don't attach my name to your shit. You guys snitched, cool. I walked away from it, bro. And I was facing time. I have my felony, and it destroyed my finances, destroyed my marriage, everything. My mother died, bro. Like, and I don't blame the case of my mother dying, but I went through a lot of shit over this, bro. I never got a phone call, a dime sent to me, no heads up. All I got was phone calls about what's going on or how much money can you make us this week. Get the fuck out of here, bro. Like, to me, it was a no-brainer. If you're going to, I can't attach myself to the rat and shit, and I can't, and it wasn't just about me and a fear for my safety. Fuck that. My kids, man. I don't want daddy's a rat. No, not gonna happen. For me, that was it. And I pled guilty. I obviously risked my fucking life, but I'd rather die than snitch. It's that simple. And kids don't listen to that shit. I'm gonna go back on that because that's stupid to say. I'd rather face my time and deal with my shit than tell.
And what did the judge end up giving you?
I knew I was max a year and a day, so I was in no way worried. And it's minimum. It's a minimum, you know how the camps go. So I was like, fuck, this is a joke. Not to say I was going in there with that attitude, but I went in and he said, you have anything to say? I said, Your Honor, I know what I did. I'm done with it. I just want to go home to my kids. That was all I said. Fortunately, I had about almost 100 character letters, number one. And when we did I don't know, what's the interview called where they call you about your, there's that right before sentencing.
The PSI.
So I was a nervous wreck, and I'm like, Bruno, what do we do? You know what we did? And I don't care if they know now. We got fucking blasted. I was drunk on this phone call, but it got the fear out of me and all the nervousness, and I was able to talk openly, and they saw who I was, and I'm just a regular guy, dude, and I had them laughing on the phone, which was great. And all the character letters, and they saw I had kids. They saw all they had on me was one recording and a box of money. The judge was like, I'm really considering sentencing you here, but due to the character letters and your children, and at that job got a real job. I went into security, bouncing. I was, ironically, I got the security job because I couldn't get a job anywhere else, but I became really good at it. And he saw I was working, and he's like, I'm going to sentence you to, and I'm thinking I'm going to hear, what was the camp where what's his face was? Up Otisville. That's what I was expecting to get. And he's like, I'm going to do you a favor here. You're going to go home to your kids. But they extended my probation instead of 3 years, they did 5 years. Fine. And I had to give up all the money. I surrendered $235,000 cash. They stole about $40,000 worth of sneakers, which I didn't bring up. Which, grow up. Right? Whatever, they did it. So they let me walk on that. And but at that point, see, this is another thing that people don't realize. When you get out of these cases, there's a ripple effect. And I couldn't get a real job. My mother was deteriorating to the point she was getting older, so her mind was already going a little bit, and she was losing weight, and it was a constant paranoia for her anytime I wasn't near her. It became obsessive. That's actually how I moved back to Connecticut, and my actions, and that's my biggest regret, was what I did to her. You know, getting choked up, sorry. But yeah, I fucked that up, man. And we went to the doctor finally, and while I'm going to the doctor, keeping her, I bought Center in Shelton. And they told me the whole reason I bought the damn bar was she was supposed to live 3 to 5 years. My plan was to buy the bar. She was diagnosed with pulmonary fibrosis and stay there the length of her life that she had left and move. She dies 3 months later. So now I'm stuck in Shelton. But that's how that all happened, man. And this is what people I want to realize. It's a great life when you're doing it, but dude, man, the fucking repercussions and the ripples, like, I can't get a real credit card. There's still banks I'm red flagged by. I'm banned from casinos, a few casinos. People, I go for job interviews before I was my own boss. If you Google me, I look like a mass murderer, dude. It just sounds really bad, and it fucked my whole life up, dude. And no matter, I can make the money back. I'm never going to get my reputation back. I'm never going to get my mom back. My kids know me as a felon. You know how embarrassing that is? Like, it sucks, bro. My father, rich, successful man, and he's got this one black sheep fuck up, and I'm his oldest son with his namesake. People don't realize this shit that comes with this, and the PTSD you get, and I don't know if you feel it, but if I'm around cops, I always feel like I'm doing something wrong. Do you get that too sometimes?
Yeah, all the time. Yeah.
It sucks, and it stays with you forever, and it builds that PTSD in you, and I know how do they say it? There's an alcoholic process. I know I didn't drink today, and I know I didn't drink yesterday, but I don't know about tomorrow yet. And there's times when I get, the bills are late, and the bar's not doing so well, or my security business is slow. And I do get that thought, because I know I can go out tomorrow and start over and be successful doing all that shit again. I know I could. You have to fight that urge, dude. And it's hard when you can't get your kids what they used to anymore. Or if you can't, your wife's not wearing $30,000 jewelry no more. Or it's hard, dude. It's a fight. It's almost like an addiction. And you have to just suck it up and keep going, man. And it's terrible. But if you can get out there and all those skills I use in growing that business, I was able to bring into this now with the bar, my security business. And just, I don't want to sound the wrong way here, but it was worth it in the sense of what I did, because I came full circle now, man. And my kids are tough as nails. They don't take no shit. They're very intelligent. All the guys I ran with in that crew, they're all got legitimate, successful businesses now. I got a girl that stood by me. Although my mom's not here, she was proud of me getting the bar, dude. It came full circle for me, and I'm able to go into these business dealings now and live life with a whole different attitude. In a sense, like I told you, we're going to find out who the better person is in this negotiation, and I'm going to win most of the time now. And that's what I do. I'm able to fight through things that most people can't. My bar it's had rough times, would have been closed years ago if I wasn't me. It's just, you get a whole different view on life. But unfortunately, you get the scars with it, and it sucks. You can't get mom back. You can't get the fucking record back. You can't get, you know how it is, dude. It's just, there's parts of your life that are ruined, and there's no way coming back from that.
How much money do you think you made during your whole career in crime?
Millions. Yeah. There was one time I remember I decided to count the cash in my house, and I had $720,000 in $20 bills in front of me. I didn't even count the big bills. Once again, great times, but that my stupid ass having money in the house is what got me that money laundering. That was an extra charge. The money was always, it was endless money. It was just, I could do anything I wanted and whenever I wanted. But while I'm doing that, I was neglecting my kids. I was cheating on my girl. I was neglecting my family and my parents, not doing what they wanted. So as fun as it was, the most selfish thing I've ever done in my life. It was as much fun as I had, and I got to experience shit that I never will again. Well, you never know. And I don't mean that criminally, but when I think back now what I was doing to them, I would take it all back. I'm glad the skills I've gained from it, but I did damage to a lot of people I love. And it's fucked up, man. It really is. And I know it. I admit it now, but it took me years to point inward. I blamed everyone else. Well, you didn't raise me right, that's why I'm doing this. And my ex-wife, you left me, so you're out there, that's why I don't see the kids. Dude, get in a fucking plane to go see your kids. There were times where I go 6 months without seeing them. And I think about it now, I can't even fathom it. But that was me, Mr. Tough Guy with all the money. Well, his kids are home fucking waiting for you. That's fucked up, man.
Did you ever hear from those individuals in the organization?
We're still friends on social media, but we don't talk. I don't know if I don't know how he feels about me, man. And I know how I feel about him. I was upset what they did. But he might be upset what I did too. You know, I couldn't attach myself to what they were doing. And he might look at it as, well, you didn't give us a shot to fight. But I knew what they were doing, dude. You weren't fighting. You weren't going to fight. You were going into an office somewhere and everyone knew that people were taking a stand. No fucking way, dude. So there's probably some ill feelings there. I got one in particular, the guy Al, man. I still got love for the dude, man. He's a great dude. It was an unfortunate situation we got ourselves caught up in, man.
What about Shrimp Boy? What happened to him?
Double life. Yeah. When the process began of cooperating, that's what's fucked up, man. The murders weren't even in my case. They were given. That's what sucks for him. And that's part of why I don't agree with it. That's too much to give up, dude. But to defend them for doing that, there were some inner workings while this was going on where allegedly he was trying to fuck them too. So it wasn't just them saying, I want to get out of jail. These are tough guys. They weren't scared of going to prison. It was just more of retaliation than anything.
So were you just someone that just moved the money?
Yep.
Because you didn't get charged with that?
If somebody owed, I had to make sure they paid.
But what about violence? I mean, the judge, I feel like, wouldn't have let you off the hook
I won't comment on that.
Okay.
And I'm sorry. I just say, yeah, there's certain things I can't comment on.
But essentially, you were a money mover.
Correct.
Which is where the money laundering comes in.
And, you know, the marijuana involved, but the money laundering, I guess, is exactly what they want. Nobody cares about pot, dude, especially feds. It was, yes, that was going on, but it was more that I was picking up money. The way they see it is I'm taking these millions of dollars and bringing them to this organization, which is killing people. Mm-hmm. I never looked at it that way because I didn't know you don't know how deep in shit you are until you smell it, basically. And it was, once I didn't realize until that day of the court when we had everybody in there, I'm like, oh my God. There's people that were getting arrested I'm talking from cigarettes, I don't know what the charge was, whether you bring in cigarettes from different states. It started from that all the way up to murder.
Like an illegal import type of
Correct. So I'm talking every single crime you could think of was in my indictment.
Well, they were a criminal organization.
But dude, shit, the Italians don't even go that far. If there was a nickel to be made, they were making it, man.
If you knew that they were doing like acts of violence and stuff, would you have never even gotten part of it?
I still would have. I won't lie. I'm going to be honest. I still would have. That was the life I was living at the time. I had a whole different mentality, man. That was about... I didn't give a fuck, to be honest with you. I wasn't scared of arrest. I shouldn't say I wasn't scared. I was, but not scared enough to not do it. You know, I didn't give a fuck. I mean, I always had fear, like I told you, but it's kind of a good reason I was able to come up in the security company or bouncing. I would go to bars, and especially White Plains, I got hired because I was the cleanup guy in a sense. I was the guy in that bar that if there's a fight, I'm coming out. And you might beat me, but we're going to fight again when I see you, and again, and again, and again until I win. And that's the mentality I have with everything. So that is how I formed a security business. I was able to meet a bunch of great guys, and I'm not like that no more. My bouncers handle their own business, but everything I did in my criminal life, I was able to project into this legal life now and be successful at it.
So you make millions of dollars.
Not anymore.
No, back then, yeah. You make millions of dollars in this, but you end up with a felony.
Correct.
But you avoid prison.
Correct.
Was it worth it?
Yes. And only because the money was all gone. What I used to do is, when I say millions, I had this fucking stupid idea that if I didn't have cash on hand, actual liquid, I would put product into the street knowing that if I needed that money, similar to bank accounts. This guy owes me this guy owes me this guy owes me this. So in my mind, I'll always have the money if I ever get raided. The cash isn't there. All those people ran when I got arrested. So that money left and that's it. But it was only worth it because of where I am now. And I don't think I am where I am now, and I'm happy where I am now. I'm a great dad, and I'm a great friend, and I have great employees, and I'm surrounded by people I love now. I don't know if I'm here if I don't get to that level of where I was. So I'm happy with my life right now. So was it worth it? Yes, in that manner. It wasn't worth it for what I did to my family and friends. So it's kind of a toss-up there, but I'm happy with me now. So for that, I'm not the man I am today unless I go through all that bullshit. I don't recommend it, but I'm not sitting here with you, and pleasure to meet you. So I'm where I am because of that. So yes, it was worth it.
What do you want people to take away from your story, the lessons?
Full honesty, if you're going to get into this life, get out, set a goal. The truth is you have to set a goal, whether it be a business, property. The end game in this, if you don't quit, is death or jail. No, there's no other options. There's not rich. You're not getting rich forever. And get in and get out. And if you're smart enough to get those skills to really become successful at it, stop. Because you have the business acumen now. You can do anything, dude. Like, I work with these kids now, and with Boys and Girls Club, and these single moms and everything, and I see them, and I see a lot of kids, and it's in music today, and it's glorified, dude. And you get, especially on not your podcast, but there's some of these podcasts, these guys are on there glorifying that life, man. And you got young kids watching this shit, dude. If you have to get in it, and I don't know your situation, get out as fast as you can. And if you've learned that skill where you were successful and able to get out, apply it and you'll be successful, dude. There's nothing you can't do. I was a felon with nothing left, and I own 2 businesses, one being a bar that does over $1 million in revenue a year. If I can do it, anybody can do it, dude.
Well said.
Yeah.
Well, Norge, thank you for coming on the show today, man. It was a pleasure to sit, chat, and hear your story.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah, we'll definitely come check out the bar.
Please do, man. Please do.
Are you working there tonight?
Unfortunately, yeah.
I do not miss those nightclubs.
I'm so tired, dude. Yeah.
I stayed up after the Mike Tyson fight, went to the after party, and it was the first time I was up till like 5 a.m.
Between you and I, and Mike don't get mad. I think Mike could have killed him if he really wanted to. Yeah.
No comment.
He might hit you if you say something. Thank you, brother.
Yeah.